Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the session. So I'm going to cover what do we do in network security, mainly lateral security, as the threats are increasing and we hear from customers every day. New kinds of attacks are coming in. What have we built at VMware for security in the networking? Like we've been at it like for the last 10 years, right? We started with segmentation, micro-segmentation, then we added on many layers of security, including an acquisition we did 3.5 years ago called Lastline. So we built that up nicely. What do we do over there? And now everybody's mind is Gen AI. It's good. You can use Gen AI for your products. That's what we plan to use for security, and we'll talk about it along with a demo. What are we doing with Gen AI? But it's bad also. Attackers can use Gen AI for wrongful acts and come up with new attacks and hacks. So we'll cover some of that along with the demo too. So first of all, the usual stuff. Some of this stuff is forward-looking, especially what we are doing with Gen AI. It's not yet shipping. It's called Project Cypress, but we'll still do a demo and talk about it, but it'll come out sometime next year. The rest of the products we are going to talk about are available today. So first of all is the attacks are going up every day, different categories of attacks. But when we look at it, our customers buy security products, best of security products, many different vendors. They can't exactly put them together and stitch them together. They use Splunk or something else. Doesn't quite do the trick. And when they try and use it, human errors happen, and that is the cause for 74% of the attacks. Okay? Something is not protected. We find like when we run our security analytics, which I'll talk about later, simple applications, 3 are protected, 2 are not protected, somebody forgot to protect part of it, and so on and so forth. And it's just open for attack. So many times I use the paradigm like the front door is tightly locked, but the windows and some of the back doors are left open and attackers get in. And that is a lot of that happens because of human errors and mistakes. But it happens because you don't know in real time what you've deployed, what's happening in your setup. So we need to provide tools to show you what is not protected and how you can protect it. And 44% of the attacks are phishing attacks. And then some attacks cost a lot. And customers don't even want to disclose it because it's embarrassing, ransomware attacks and all that. But studies show on the average, you're losing $4.35 million for an attack. Though we know in cases where the entire company got shut down due to ransomware, for a day or two, the loss was much more, right? The loss was tens of millions of dollars along with the reputation. So it can vary a lot, and the attacks are only increasing every day. And now along comes Gen AI, and even the not so smart person or who's not a super hacker can use this technology, ask a few intelligent questions, and then lo and behold, you have the basis of a pretty good attack, and then you can build upon that. And governments who are trying to attack, and they can put hundreds of software programmers use Gen AI and come up with more sophisticated attacks. Or they can use other people who want to be would-be hackers, get their name in there. This is a good starting point. I mean, not that we want to over-advertise it, but it's easy enough. We ourselves were able to ask a few questions and outshowed this is how you would attack or compromise this vulnerability. So we need to protect against that because this will only increase the number of attacks. So let's look at the traditional data center, right? Forever, the last 25 years, we all know perimeter firewall. Everybody buys the perimeter firewalls, deploy it, they work. But 80% of the traffic is inside going east-west from the web application to the database layer, right? One packet comes in, typically it's 8 or more packets inside as you traverse those layers. And a lot of people either have partially protected the inside stuff, and I'll explain what the challenges are, or haven't done it at all, but they don't want to disclose it because then attackers can even attack them inside. And that's where the more serious attacks happen, right? With lateral movement, malware, ransomware attacks happen. So that's a time and again we see big and small organizations, they haven't protected themselves properly in the east-west direction. And you should certainly be worried about it, right? And don't act on it after the attack has happened, because many times customers even own the feature with the VMware products they bought, but they haven't deployed it, and they wait till it's too late. Once the attack happens, oh, okay, we should have turned it on, and in the next 12 months they turn on microsegmentation, IDS, IPS, and the other products we offer. So what are the kind of attacks you have, right? There's the usual segmentation, lateral movement attacks, where unauthorized movement you should not allow between dev and product. Dev is usually not that protected. You make a mistake, it gets compromised, off you go into production layer. Or vulnerabilities, right? Everybody uses a lot of open source software, and that is where the hackers really work on. What is the vulnerability? How do we expose it? How do we attack it? So you really want to protect against that. And then zero-day attacks. If you're a true hacker, that's what you want your name to be associated with. I came up with this new attack. It was very successful. It gets plastered all over the news. And that's what a real hacker is after. I want to come up with a new zero-day attack. And they are quite dangerous because you don't know what to do with them. Initially, you're puzzled. You don't even know how to stop it. And it makes a lot of hay before you figure out what's going on and come and stop it, right? So these are the various kinds of attacks happening, and your infrastructure or security products do need to address all these kind of attacks, not just like, hey, segmentation. Because that is the very foundational thing, but there's much more than that which is happening in your infrastructure. So again, you have to defend it with proper lateral security. So if you look at the traditional environment, in the middle you have your compute servers. That's where your workloads are running. You have a service rack where you have your security appliances and you hairpin your traffic. Active standby, time and again we have found a long time back, I used to be at Cisco 15 years back, hey, active standby failover happened, and the VLAN was not set up properly, and lo and behold, the standby didn't take over, and so on and so forth. A, as B, it's expensive, and then you're creating extra traffic in your network for this hairpinning and passing all the traffic up and down. It's limited capacity, especially for IDS, IPS appliances don't scale, and that makes it very expensive. So many times people don't deploy it or deploy it in a limited environment, which is not good enough. You deployed it for a few apps, but for not the rest. The other apps can get compromised in shared infrastructure. They can then hop across and start attacking the apps which you have not protected. So this is not the right architecture, especially as you build cloud-like environments. So in our case, we have the distributed architecture with vSphere, VCF Cloud, and all our security stuff runs as a software-defined security. It gets distributed. We use a few compute cycles in the servers and are able to provide you security. And it's managed from a central entity, our NSX manager. So it's distributed architecture. It scales out nicely, and it's managed from a single location, and we have a policy, a declarative policy. You can fully automate it and manage it in an easy manner. So it's fully scalable. And we believe this is the right architecture for something like a VCF, a vCloud Foundation Cloud. And the other problem is today when you use the normal tapping environment, that can only see the traffic going across the host. Like, think the left side is one host and the right side is another host. And it can only look at traffic in the middle, expensive taps, Gigamon, another parallel network. Very hard to do it, and you have blind spots, right? Within a server, VM to VM traffic you can't see. So if you can't see it, you can't protect it properly. Huge problem, because many times when you don't know what is happening, you don't know what is the application topology, you're not protecting it properly. That's not a problem for us, because we have the VDS switch. In vSphere, we can see all the traffic, who's talking to who, and then we can kind of look at the traffic properly, right? We don't do IP fix kind of captures over there and send it to a big appliance, look at terabytes of data. We can look at it intelligently, kind of analyze a little bit on the host itself within the hypervisor, and then ship up only the traffic we want for full security analytics. So we do it very intelligently, collect some of the data. We can look at every single flow. We capture everything, but then combine it together, dedupe, not in the sense of compression, but it's like we kind of shrink it down, the amount of data we really need, and we ship it up into our security intelligence appliance, which is called NSX Intelligence, and there we can analyze it and come up with rule recommendations, what et cetera is going on. So again, you need complete visibility without, otherwise you don't know what you're protecting and what is not protected. So we have a full comprehensive security stack, especially in the lateral security, right? Your distributed firewall and gateway firewall provide layer 7, layer 4, layer 7 stateful firewall. Then we have advanced threat protection. We provide sandboxing, IDS, IPS, NTA, NDR, all the levels over there for malware and ransomware detection. And our top layer, security intelligence, this is where we capture the visibility, all the flows. We have a lot of sensors. We capture NTA data, and we can come up with app discovery, distributed firewall rules, and we also feed it into our NDR, right? The NTA side feeds into the NDR. And that's where we run our AI, ML to figure out how do we properly come up with what the customer should be doing to enforce security. So we have a full stack, and the layers kind of provide, are interconnected, and the upper layers leverage the lower layers, right? Is the advanced threat protection figures out, hey, due to behavioral analytics, this does not look right. This workload needs to be compromised. We can call a distributed firewall rule and cut off this workload, right? Stop it from talking to the rest of the environment. So it's a comprehensive stack. It's all managed together from single location. And our thesis is this is how in future you want to protect yourself and not try and take products from 10 companies, try and stitch them together, because that is a horrendous task and takes a long time to do. So moving ahead, how do we simplify the journey to micro-segmentation, right? This is our product which we've had for many, many years, right? What are we doing in this area to simplify it? Because we've heard from many customers, how do I operationalize this in a simple fashion, right? And if you look, that's where the NSX intelligence comes in, or security intelligence. We discover the applications, we capture the flows, we come up with the application map, and then we do security analytics, and we tell you in real time what is protected, what is not protected, and if you want to protect this application properly, here are the recommended firewall rules. And through a single click of the UI or an API call, you can push it down, and then you're kind of locked in that application, right? Pretty easy to do. We are investing heavily in this tool, and we've heard from our customers. There were a few challenges. How do you deploy this NAP appliance? We have actively fixed a lot of things, and now in the coming release, you'll find it's quite seamless and simple to use and robust and scalable, right? Because we feel it is this kind of tooling and this kind of infrastructure when we provide, it can really make the entire security stack work better. Because if you have the products and you're unable to fully utilize them, then we are not serving you properly, right? So we want to make sure that this tool works seamlessly and provides you all the things you need to operationalize your security stack fully. So clicking ahead, so once you have the policies, you can push it down, because this one already knows what you've configured. If part of the application is not protected, it'll figure out the incremental policy or change the policy. We can even do what-if analysis. Hey, it doesn't break any other application traffic before you push down the policy, and then off you push down the policy, and there it goes. And then, of course, we use tagging and grouping, and not the 5-tuple IP addresses. So these policies are more readable, and also you can move them around. If the workload moves from one host to another host, or one data center to another data center, the same security policy stays there, right? You don't have to keep changing it all the time because the IP addresses are changing around, right? So powerful concept, looks easy, but we have it, and most other vendors don't have it in this fashion, right? And it's kind of tied in how vSphere workload is done, the IP addresses, the late binding is done, then we do the late binding. These policies can be set up in advance, and once the workload comes up, then we figure out what the IP addresses are. And then the same policies, you can even do templatization, and you can push down. Many people say, how do you build this large data center? How do you do it? So many of our customers have done is, they will come up with a way architected and a template kind of form, and then keep stamping it out again and again and again, right? They don't tweak some small things for every environment. They could be specialized applications. We need special rule setting, but mainly like they just stamp it out one after another once they figure out what to do. And then that way it works in a very nice fashion. The other way is like, hey, what about zero-day attacks or advanced threat protection? You need more than segmentation. Because while segmentation does help or micro-segmentation does help, but it cannot fully protect you against these advanced attacks, right? And that's where if you get these wonderful emails, humans being human, they see some money, free gift. I don't know why, but people click on it, and lo and behold, they download a file, they compromise the environment, and there we have sandboxing to prevent against malicious file downloads, and that technology came from last line. And then we have IDS IPS to look inside the packets with known signatures. If there's trying to move laterally and compromise known vulnerabilities, that will detect and protect against that because we have distributed IDS IPS. But like I said earlier, they are these smart, very, very smart people, but who want to be those well-known hackers, and they start doing zero-day attacks, right? Those cannot be protected against with any signature or anything. That's where you need our NTA, NDR technology, and that's where the behavioral analytics happen, right? You have to figure out, A was talking to B, why is it suddenly talking to C, what's going on? So you have to detect those anomalies, and that's where we used unsupervised learning to figure out what is going on there. But sometimes that is not good enough because you'll get a lot of data. And when you get a lot of alerts and a lot of things and false positives, that's where security administrators say, like, I can't deal with it. So we do have supervised learning to find out really what is going on. We have a threat team within our group, and they are able to leverage that and improve the stuff over there so that we don't get into this kind of trouble. So both unsupervised and supervised learning is used to protect against zero-day attacks. So at this time, I'm going to ask Chad to show us a fantastic demo and stitch together all these things I talked about.
All right. Thank you, Umesh.
Okay.
Okay, so getting into the demo, I'm going to be demonstrating the NSX network detection and response capabilities. These have been integrated into the hypervisor itself. So think about this integrated into the VNIC, where we have visibility to every packet, every process, both in all cardinal directions. So incoming, ingress, egress, as well as east-west. So here as an example, I've got VCF, vSphere, and what we're seeing is the initial access vector can be in many ways. Phishing of vulnerability, stolen credentials, those types of things. So what we see is, okay, I've got initial access into this particular VM, and the next thing that happens is just like any military exercise, threat actors, once they get in, they need to be able to communicate. And so this is when they begin to set up their command and control traffic, and this is sometimes obfuscated, but now I have a way in and I have a communications back. And this is about, a few times where we see the north-south. Everything else is going to actually be within the data center. And then they begin to laterally move across the enterprise. And so the demo I want to show you is all in detection mode. We do have preventative capabilities across this. If I would have prevented it, we wouldn't have a demo, right? So in this case here, we this is a screenshot of our NDR solution. And what we do is we provide a timeline of what these threat actors are doing. It's like connecting the dots and understanding the attack chain, and we follow the MITRE ATT&CK framework. How many here are familiar with the MITRE ATT&CK framework? A few hands, okay? So I advise you to go to attack.mitre.org, and MITRE is M-I-T-R-E. This is an organization that has really looked at advanced threat actors and how they use their tactics and their techniques, right, and their procedures to really stay inside the organization. So what we first see here is the malicious archive download, followed by command and control, followed by lateral movement. Now, The first instance of this, the drop-by download, this is the sandbox that Umesh talked about. This is our ability to actually interact with the malware and understand what this malware is doing. So we can dynamically execute it, we can look at it statically, and the dynamic execution allows us to interact with every process and understand what that threat actor is doing. The second one, the crypto wall communication, this is the IDS-IPS. This is our ability to understand how threat actors are communicating. And the third one here is remote desktop protocol. How many here are using RDP? Okay, that's the #1 protocol threat actors are using to move laterally across your organization. They're using it just like your network administrators. And so this right here is the network traffic analysis that Umesh was talking about. This is really east-west in our ability to use unsupervised and supervised machine learning to understand what those threat actors are doing. We use RDP all the time, that's great, but we want to know if in fact a threat actor is using RDP in a way which it shouldn't. And so as we move on, then threat actors gain credentials inside of the organizations. Let me ask you this question. How many people here let their users store their usernames and passwords in their browsers? You might not want to raise your hand on that one. But in any case, that's a way in which threat actors are able to get credentials. So from there, we see things like pass the hash over Kerberos. A lot of people are using Kerberos here. And then we again see more lateral movement because I need to be able to move laterally within the organization. Now, according to VMware Contexa, that's our threat analysis capabilities. Once a threat actor gets inside the organization, they're able to move laterally in 44% of the cases. 44. Okay? And then when they're able to move laterally, the majority of these threat actors are only hopping from 2 to 3 devices. They're being very surgical in where they want to go and trying to hide their activities within the organization. Here again, how many here, well, I'm not going to ask that question. SMB and Samba service. Sure, everybody here, not everybody, but a lot of folks are using it. This is how malicious actors are actually able to move malware laterally inside of your organization. So you've got to be able to inspect that as well. And this is where we have those capabilities. So as an example, going back to what we just saw here, we saw the malicious file download, again, to the CRM app. And then we began to see suspicious remote task scheduling. Another aspect that threat users use is PowerShell. We all use PowerShell. It's a great tool. They're using it as well to move laterally here. Then we see pass the hash over Kerberos, and then another suspicious task scheduling. And then we see a malicious file download, 2 now on that mortgage app. So here again, we've had the sandbox able to detect that east-west movement of that of the malware. Network traffic analysis able to understand and use unsupervised and supervised machine learning to detect these anomalies that we're seeing threat actors do inside the organization. And then finally, we have the malicious file download. Then from here, we're actually seeing quite a few of command and control east-west. Empire Agent, as an example, uses pure PowerShell, and this is where threat actors are communicate east-west. Come to me afterwards. The threat analysis unit just released a paper on the 10 most used command and control techniques that are done inside the organization. So they have a great research paper on that as well. Now from here, we begin to possibly see threat actors, what I call play muckety-muck, right? Mess with your DNS servers, doing DGA, this is domain generation algorithms, where they can create multiple command and control channels, whereby they can eventually exfiltrate that data outside the organization and then ransom. What we're seeing is exfiltration in most cases first. If they ransom, they're going to give themselves away. They want to exfiltrate this data outside the organization first. So in this case, we're connecting the dots of everything. Now, look at this. If you don't have visibility on the inside, this is the end state. Without visibility, this is the end state. And so we're giving you that visibility as well. As we move down, we begin to also see the command and control, right, of that threat actor east-west, as well as its activity messing with the DNS servers with this DGA malware. And then we see the exfiltration of information outside of the organization. And you can see right here, the latest stages, we're following the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So lateral movement, command and control, and finally exfiltration. The goal here for us at the end of this is to give you the visibility to really reduce the dwell time of that, either prevent or reduce the dwell time of the threat actors. And I'll close with this. On average, right, it takes about 9 months to detect a threat actor inside of the organization. 277 days is what it's coming out to. So that's like somebody living in your house without you knowing it for 9 months, going room to room to room, right? So anyway, I want to turn this back over to Umesh, and then we're going to get into the Generation AI.
Thank you, Chad. I didn't quite introduce him. He's our security technologist, resident expert within our team. He's available to customers to guide you, to describe, and to walk you through the different kind of attacks and our technology, how it can be leveraged for different scenarios. He came from last line, so obviously NT and NDR and sandboxing is a deep domain experience, but he's very familiar with the rest of our stack, right? Again, thank you, Chad. So that kind of described, while we didn't go into every single feature of our network security stack, but showed you the higher order layers, right? And I think most people are doing segmentation or micro-segmentation, which if you do it smartly, at least you can say, hey, I've micro-segmented this zone and it can't go to that zone. That lateral movement is slowed down, but it's not perfect, right? You can still, if you get into the wrong area within a zone, you can still create havoc, right? But it's better than doing nothing. So I think micro-segmentation is the starting point, but you need to build upon those layers rapidly and be concerned about malware and ransomware. How do you deal with it? How do you protect against that, right? So Gen AI, hot topic. You heard about private AI. Nothing to do with private AI over here, not at all. But it is top of mind, and attacks are going to increase. So how do we use this technology to make our product better, right? Just 1 minute digressing away from security, we are also going to put something like ChatGPT on top of our documentation so that our customers today can quickly get to it. Hey, I want to do this. Our documentation is quite extensive, as you can imagine, and the new generation doesn't like to read documents. So how can they quickly get to the answers? So they'll be able to use that front end and quickly, I want to do ransomware protection. What shall I do? Blah, 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 tell you quickly. I want to do this kind of micro-segmentation will tell you. So that one, we are doing it to make it easier, because we've heard many times with our customers, how do you scale our platform? So we are absolutely working on scaling our product, with grouping, tagging. We've improved our scale and we'll continue to improve our scale even in future. How do we deploy very large distributed firewall environments, hundreds of thousands of rules? Many customers are on that journey, so we are addressing that. But now let's get to Gen AI, right? So if we look at it, even in security, right, what Chad was describing, we can have a lot of alerts. And many times these alerts can inundate you, because as the attacks are increasing, this behavioral analytics is not a perfect science, right? So we have to tell you, like, we think this is an attack, but it may or may not be. We can't 100% say, hey, this is for sure an attack, right? So the alerts are coming in and you have to make sense out of it. Now, a typical IDS, IPS or something, there are too many alerts, right? Turn it off. Because there's so much noise that you can't make any sense out of it. And that's where you are opening yourself to attacks. So we can reduce the number of alerts using Gen AI and reduce the number of all these false positives, then half the battle is won. But now, more than that is, these alerts don't have context. It's like a syslog message thing. Somebody shut down the port, but we have no idea why it got shut down, right? After the most important part of the syslog is missing. We're not giving you a real reason. Something went wrong. Very good. Who cares, right, if we don't tell you the reason? So I think with Gen AI, we can give you the proper context. Why do we think this is an incorrect thing happening and somebody is attacking? Because once the alerts are reduced, you have the context. And then finally, we can tell you, if this is happening, how would you protect against it, right? Now, we can't do 100%, But the closer we get you in these three areas, reduce the number of alerts, tell you what really is going on, so you look at it, this makes sense, right? A, B, C reason, this is sensible. I'm not going to like just turn off something and bring down something else for no rhyme or reason. We know a customer who had a problem, they reset the whole thing, and they had a 6-hour outage. Everything they reset, and then it was rebooting, and of course, system couldn't keep up with it. Now, we never say do something that drastic, right? You think you have a problem, and you reset every single thing in your environment. Don't do that, because you'll run into other problems. Like you inundate the managers, and they can't come up seamlessly, et cetera, especially if you have a big environment. And then finally, the last part, right? If we can tell you what to do, and at least guide you in the right direction, then people can move faster. So that's what we are trying to do. There's a project, a Cypress going on, and Stefano, one of our engineers, he's up here. You can talk to him after the talk. He is based in UK. He's leading that effort. But here back again is Chad to show us a demonstration of what really we are doing in this area.
Absolutely. Okay, so introducing Project Cypress. This is generative AI meant to look at your current alerts that we're seeing within your environment, and there's three things that we want to do. We want to help your SOC analysts better triage. We want to give them more context around the threat, and we want to give them quick, responsive type activities that they can do. So, all right, here we go, and it's a minute and a half. So you'll see all of these alerts right here, right? We've got multiple campaigns, and this is what Umesh was talking about. Sometimes you just have so many things going on inside your organization. We really need the help of generative AI to come in and say, okay, let's take a look at this, and from this perspective here, we'll enable it. And as we enable this, you're going to see it from the back end really reduce all of these types of things, and we've seen reduction up to 10x when we're using generative AI in the back end. Now from here, you could go in, and what we've done is we combine these three campaigns together because they look alike, and you can see the recurring threats, and you can see the moderate attack. But now we can actually go into Project Cypress, and you can ask it a question or the prompt. Hey, can you explain this campaign to me? What's going on? Well, we've seen task scheduling, we've seen command and control, data exfiltration, and it's like crypto wall. Okay, how did this attack happen? Well, the first was we saw beaconing on dev VDI2. So what's the impact? Data exfiltration was the last step, and in all likelihood, since the data went out from the product mortgage app, all right, show me some remediation steps. There are two possible ones, right? You can go offline, or you can actually block the threat actor. So, all right, let's stop command and control and data exfiltration. We'll come up immediately, come up with a response that says, hey, here are these IDS signatures that you can go deploy immediately. What would you like me to do? Yes, go ahead and deploy these to stop the exfiltration and stop the actual command and control. Immediately it goes out. It only takes a few seconds. The chosen policy has been applied, and then you can actually go to it and see it in action of the policy being deployed and seeing the actual preventative capabilities, right? So that is, you can ask questions, you can look at the prompts, but the goal here again is one, give you the ability to triage faster with the help of generative AI. Number two, give you more context. Instead of having to go search and read and read and read, we're compiling all this and come back immediately. And then from that, we can provide remediation actions on the fly that says, hey, this is the best way to go about doing it. You can stop the command and control, and then you can stop the exfiltration. So there you go. Let me see if this works. There you go.
So at this time, I want to welcome three of our customers and have a panel discussion with them. Philip, Sam, and Ian.
Sorry.
So they've been network security NSX customers for a long time. So we wanted to bring them up here to hear from them, their first-hand experience, what has worked well for them, what do they think areas where we can do more, VMware security side. So without any further ado, let me ask them. Starting off with Philip, like, hey, what are your top network security concerns, and how have you had used NSX security to help you?
So yeah, for us, it's really to protect ourselves with a not new generation of threat. So for sure, the second one is compliance. We need to be compliant with a certain number of internal rules or regulation. And also the last one is to protect the data. So that's the three main points.
Okay.
And from when we start with NSX, we start with micro-segmentation for sure. We still only on 2 clusters. Now we have 70 clusters protected by NSX. We want to continue. We expect to have twice the amount of cluster. So the scalability of the cluster, scalability of NSX to support the micro-segmentation was also a big point for us.
So over the years, I think it's worked for you, and now you're deploying it more widely.
Yeah, now we start to deploy NSX IPS IDS. We have also deployed ALB. We still have the perimeter defense for sure.
Of course.
But well, we need to know what's happened between the VM at the application level for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Sammy, if I can ask you the similar question.
Yeah, thank you for the invite first. So we are using NSX since 2016. Now we begin with the NSX-V version, and we passed in 7 years from 0 to more than 50,000 machines on our private cloud. And we're using, so for me the biggest advantage of NSX is using the security tags. It permits to design a new kind of security policy, network security policy on your firewall. So it permits to have a biggest change view, a different view of the private cloud security.
Okay, so you don't have to use the 5-tuple everywhere. And
yeah, but we have a lot of NSX managers. We have and all the communication is done by micro-segmentation.
so are you able to automate this?
Yep. So using the APIs, so especially with the NSX-T, good APIs on NSX-T permit to have a full automation between all the VMs, Yeah.
Okay. Ian, what's your experience been? And
I think for me there are two major benefits. One is in this modern landscape that Umesh and Chad showed us. The threat is changing all the time, and we need to be ready to deal with that. I think the second point is our internal customers want agility from us. They want to deploy faster, they want change faster, and we use NSX and the features within that and automation to be able to deliver what our developers need quicker than we were ever doing before.
okay, so are you satisfied with how it's working for you?
It can always get better. What can't? Yeah, no. We see a lot of benefits, and we see our customers are happy, and hopefully we're properly protected.
Okay, wonderful. Sammy, I want to start off with the second question for you. How important is the full visibility that I and Chad talked about in your environment, right, to have security?
Yeah, so as you said in your presentation, so you can pretend to do security if you don't have a global view of your perimeter or of your scopes. So the advantage for me on NSX using the API again, or with the GUI also, you can have a global view with the inventory, the scaling of your perimeter, the number of objects, rules, etc. And you can have that only in one API call or two, or in one click on the GUI.
Okay. Ian, what about you?
I think if operating in a zero trust environment, visibility is absolutely essential. We need to understand what our applications are doing so that we can either ensure that they're doing the right thing or stop them doing the wrong thing. And again, we use a number of the VMware tools to help us drill into what's going on in the network. And I think the point about you're inside the hypervisor, so you're not seeing logs from a host, you're seeing the logs from the traffic inside the actual VMs themselves at the hypervisor level. So I think that, yeah, the visibility is critical, not just to standard operations, but to help our customers deliver their services.
Okay, very good. What about you, Philip?
Oh, I agree. What was already said, and yeah, visibility for the traffic, and you have to know what's happened if you want to protect your data center.
Okay. The next question, let me start with you, Ian. I talked about we have an integrated security stack. What do you think is the importance of that, and how would it help you change your security posture rather than using multiple security tools over there?
I think the slide you had at the start with the rack of separate hardware, that brings its own challenges. Integrating the full stack into the hypervisor and into the VM itself gives us everything in one place. It scales with the platform. It ties in with what we just said about visibility and the manageability of one platform rather than half a dozen separate platforms. Just really makes everybody's life much easier.
Okay. Philip, how do you look at it?
At the same, you have to manage several platforms. You make error between the different platforms. So only one stack is much better to manage. So you may avoid a lot of error because it's only one product to manage.
Okay. Sammy?
So doing the automation you need to have, you can use the API, different APIs to have the complete view, as I said before, the second question. And the complete view can permit to automatize a lot of things. So for example, you can expose like features for your customers. If a new application can come in your private cloud, for example, you can give to your infrastructure team expose an API to create the generic rules for an application. Mm-hmm. So it permits to have all the flows already directly open when the VMs came on the cloud. So and less run for the network security team. So it's a win-win for everybody.
So all three of you may or may not be using all the layers, but you're open to moving up our security stack. Because I think it does offer a more comprehensive, easy-to-use security solution. And we have online demos, or we can do a POC in your environments to demonstrate that. Okay. Since everybody's talking about Gen AI, I have a question on that too. And Chad just demonstrated some of the virtues. First of all, how do you see Gen AI, impacting cyber threats? What are you hearing, not necessarily within your organization, but from your fellow security experts? How is that going to impact? And what do you want to do in your posture change to protect against that? All this Gen AI related attacks which are going to happen whether you like it or not. Starting with you, Philip.
For me, I know that I will not get more FTE
Yes.
in the future, so for sure. So now I need to have more automation, even when we start to deploy a new application, but also for the day-to support. So for me, automation will be, and help in the automation will be the keyword.
Okay. Sammy?
Gen AI is like the subject of the moment since the ChatGPT release, and AI and Gen AI globally should keep in mind that it's only a tool, and it should be a tool to help everybody to do something. And so you need to use it with brain. Don't use AI and trust AI with no brains, because you can have you will find some hackers, they will use AI with brain, and will compromise your information system very fast. We can imagine like a lot of scenarios. I believe that nobody can know what AI going to be in 10 years. I don't think that we can
10 years
imagine.
is too long in AI.
It's all in the future for a new tool. But we can imagine like scenarios for AI with I don't know, like an AI trained to do some penetration testing. Now we have like AI or AI already creating codes. We have AI executing codes. So we can imagine what can happen with this, with the AI.
Ian, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything said previously. I think whether we use AI internally or not, the bad people outside are absolutely going to be using it for attacking us all. So I do think that we need to be able to respond to that and make the best use of the tools that we can get provided by people like yourselves to improve our responses and improve our analysis, and as Chad was demonstrating, simplifying the processes for our massively overloaded SOCs.
Okay. At this point, I want to thank all three of you for joining us here today and giving what your experience and expertise is with VMware network security products and being great customers, right? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let me close out. I have one or two more slides. So, of course, VCF, you heard about it from Hawk and others, like we'll be focused on VCF. So I think we are the best platform for a VCF kind of environment to provide security because we provide a distributed architecture, runs in the hypervisor on all the VMs. We use a little percentage of the CPUs and it works perfectly. It's managed from a single location and it's a full stack for security, right? But we talked a lot about the distributed full stack security. But at the end of the day, there's money too. Your CIO is also trying to save money. So in our case, we provide both CapEx and OpEx saving, right? Our solution is cheaper. It's integrated. It's in software. You're not buying active standby appliances. And we have a tool which can do this math and show you how we are saving money for you all. And finally, if I want you to walk away thinking like, hey, what are we doing, right? We are providing a distributed security environment where zero appliances, for security, zero tickets. We didn't talk about VPCs, but we also have VPCs, so you don't need to create tons of tickets and spend months doing security. And then, of course, zero taps, right? So with all this kind of solution we have in a comprehensive stack, we believe we have the best zero trust security solution for your virtualized environment, VMware environment, and your VCF cloud. Thank you so much.